Hi, good evening, Samir.
Hi, MD.
And good evening to all our viewers, listeners. Welcome to the 152nd episode of AI Podcast. This is brought to you by AI Pod, which is a community, nearly 1,000 strong community of AI enthusiasts, and Axel, which is a one-of-a-kind accelerator for AI startups run by IIT Alumni Center, Bengaluru, with the support of the government of Karnataka. It's my absolute pleasure to have today Samir Kumar from Athera Ventures. Samir and I have known each other for a very long time. Such a long time that I've taken the liberty to not tell him what I'm going to talk about at all, other than the topic. That's all we have. So we're going to go back and, he's got 25 years of experience as a venture capitalist. Started with, I think, Athera Ventures, which is when I first met him. And then, of course, Inventors, and which changed names to Athera. Is that correct, Samir?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to start with the advantage of you being around for 25 years. How has it changed for a first-time founder? If a first-time founder pitched to you, let's say in 2000, and pitched to you today, what has changed for him or her?
Okay. So, first of all, MD, thanks for having me here on this podcast. It is my pleasure to also share my thoughts and views and whatever I've learned over the last 25 years. But to answer your specific question, a lot has changed for the founder, and I'll name a few specific things. So, when I started off with Acer Tech Ventures way back when, we used to get a lot of founders coming and pitching to us and then saying that I need 20 lakhs, I need 15 lakhs. Whereas Acer's minimum bite size even then was $1 million. $1 million was probably 3 crores, not 8 crores or 8.5 crores, which it is today. But that was the gap. And the big thing that was missing then, which founders today have for them now, is this whole support of angel capital. So that's one big change that has happened. Founders have access to a lot more capital of the type that they need when they are starting off: seed funds, angel funds, supportive angel investors, and things like that. The second is the whole ecosystem of mentors and forums for them to talk to people, to get access to investors, and all have multiplied a lot. I think when I got started, Indian Angel Network was just getting started and Mumbai Angels was just getting started. And probably these two were the only angel networks that at least I can recall from that time. But today you have so many more. You have Let's Ventures, you have We Founder Circle. I mean, you have at least 20 to 25 seed angel investors. Incubators were not there earlier. This whole DST funded incubators as well as incubators in colleges were just beginning to happen then. Today, a founder who's starting off, and if they are students in college, then they can just go to their college incubators, get so much more support, get funding, get validation of their idea, and so many more things. So I think for a founder, things have exponentially improved, not linearly, in the last 24 years.
Does it mean that it's become very competitive for investors?
It has. There is no question about it. So it has become competitive. At the same time, it's become slightly better. You are not now getting pitched by founders who need to raise 15 lakhs was then, but now it's probably a crore or 2 or 3 crores, which is the angel seed funding that's happening. And founders have sort of, it's got segregated. So it has got competitive for VCs. But at the same time, our life has got better for two reasons. One is you don't have founders pitching for, they understand where you are and they pitch to you at that stage. And secondly, founders that are coming to us are more mature because they've raised the seed capital and things like that, and the seed investors have given them the guidance, the capital, the assistance to come to a stage where they are series A ready.
And you do only Series A?
So we do pre-series A and series A. And again, these terminologies like pre-series A and all didn't exist way back when, but today I'm even hearing pre-seed, which I don't understand. But seed, pre-series A, pre-series B, series B, and all other stages. We are typically series A or sometimes slightly ahead of that or before that. Seed is very opportunistic for us.
So what does that mean actually? Pre-Series A or Series A? Where should the founder be, or where should the startup be?
Yeah. So And it's a very good question, MD, because even in the industry, even in the VC industry, there is total confusion on what these terms mean. So we define Series A as the founder having achieved product market fit, which means his product is ready, he's got some customers, these customers are paying some money to him, and basically the technology works and somebody is buying that technology. So there is some product market fit established. Pre-Series A is you are there, but so you are very close to closing your first customer, but you haven't closed it. But we can quickly validate that yes, this will close in the next few weeks or a month or so or whatever it is. It just needs ABC, which is all in the entrepreneur's reach for it to close and things like that. So we define pre-series A, series A in these terms: product market fit or just about to get product market fit.
And obviously, being a VC, I mean, you're looking at a large multiple. So scaling is important. And at
Yes.
that early stage, how do you look for scale?
So that multiple for us, we need to see a 10x blended return on every investment we make. And I mean, at some other time, we can walk through the maths of why this 10x is important, etc. Because only with this visibility of 10x on every investment will you be able to make a 3, 4x return for your investors. But um, obviously we don't make 10x in all, and are surrogates for the ability of this venture to scale. We use surrogates. There is nothing at the stage at which we are to say that this will give us a 10x or this will scale. So one is the market should be large enough. If the market is very small, then it's very hard to build a large company. In a 100 crore total market, the largest company you can build is a 100 crore revenue company, right? If you have 100% market share. But for us to make our 10x returns, markets should be large so that the company can become large with a reasonable assumption of market share. Maybe a 15-20% is a very good assumption of market share. And with that assumption, they should become a large company such that when we exit, either through an IPO or through an M&A, the returns are there. So one is a large market. And second, obviously, is the team. Does this entrepreneurial team have the capacity to build a large venture in the space? So there is a large market, but I don't understand my customers well, or I'm not good with the technology I'm building, or I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to attract people who can sell. So these are the things we try and fix in our heads, that this team has the capacity to build a large company. The market in which they are playing is a large enough market. And obviously, if there are 1,000 players in a 1,000 crore market, then it's a challenging task to build a large company. So, how many competitors are there? What are the differentiators that this entrepreneur has over the competitors that exist, and so on? These are the proxies we use for for sort of convincing ourselves that this
Convincing
can be a
yourselves.
10x return.
Yeah,
And more
but in
often
some
than
cases,
not, as you know, we con ourselves.
I know. But some cases, market size, it's probably not even visible. Now, people are talking about agentic AI. Firstly, it takes quite a bit of effort to understand what it is and the market for it. How do you even look at such markets?
Yeah. So there is obviously when agentic AI came, and it came only about a year or two ago, there was no market for agentic AI. But the way you assess a market for, so we have a company which is in the procurement to payment space, agentic AI
Mhm.
in the finance space. It's a reasonably crowded space, so I'm not trying to say that it's
Yeah.
a great company or whatever. It is a great company, but leave that aside. So the proxy you use is, what are the tools that serve this space today? What is the
Mhm.
size? I mean, how many people, let's say, are working in this procurement to payment space? How big is the issue or problem for customers? What are the errors that happen? How smoothly does it happen? What are the delays that happen in making payments because you're not able to reconcile purchase orders with delivery challans and invoices and so on and so forth? So these are the proxies you use, or these are the measures you use to assess how large that market can be. So there, at the end of the day, MD, these are all assumptions that you make. If someone comes to me and says that by 2030, this market will be 7,356 crores, then I think it's ChatGPT that has calculated his market, not he.
And ChatGPT is also improving. It's going to give you a more rounded figure. soon.
I know. I know.
Yeah. That's very interesting. What you're saying basically is look at it from the customer, the end user's perspective in terms of what options they have. I mean, agentic
Absolutely.
AI based solution is one. What else do they have? What is the incumbent solution which is probably getting replaced? Those are the kind of proxies you're using. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Correct.
Okay, so you've made an investment. Let's say now you're 1 year into that investment. What signs do you look for, and what signs are important for you to see whether it's working or not working? By the way, before that, do you normally take board positions?
Yeah, we are very particular about board positions and we are pretty serious about the board meetings that we have. So, at least in the early part of the entrepreneur's journey, early part of our journey along with the entrepreneur, we insist on monthly board meetings and we try and attend month on month.
Okay, and what are the signs you kind of spot? Because every investment of yours is not going to work. Some are going to go south. So what do you start seeing? Maybe not in the first year, first 2 years.
Sure. So, I would have liked to answer this question by saying that every entrepreneur gives us a business plan, and it's very easy to see where you are on the business plan versus achievement. And if you're not, then you're not going places. But in my lived experience, I haven't seen a single entrepreneur, and I'm using my words carefully, meet
Yeah.
100% of their plan 100% of the time. It's not there. Even our most successful exits like Socrates, Policy Bazaar, Red Bus, all have missed plans, all have had challenging times. There is, and I'm digressing, and I'll come back to answering your question about science, but I just want to make this point that there is no linear journey for any entrepreneur that I know. Obviously, it could be that I've got a very limited horizon and so on, and there are some companies that have just gone like a rocket ship and never had a bump. But in my experience, every of our investments has had a bump. So meeting plan versus achievement, that's not the way we look for it. But um, the way we assess whether this company is moving or not moving in the right direction is what is the customer love or feedback that they're getting. Long sales cycles don't worry us or don't frighten us as much, but continuous banging one's head against customers and not being able to close any customers, that's a sign. Or it costs me 100 to produce a product, but the maximum customers will pay is 70 or 80. That's another sign. Um, so these are some of the signs that we look at. More often than not, MD, it is not product or technology or customers that lead to uh, startups not reaching where they had wanted to reach. It's also other factors like founder uh, founder disputes is one common reason
Yeah,
for
I'm going to
founder.
come to that a little later, Samir.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Hold that
But so
thought. Yeah.
these are some of the signs we look at. How are customers reacting to what you're offering is what is your pulse on what customers are saying, etc. And the
That's
board
kind of
meetings are a very critical
checkpoint.
thing or whatever it
Mm.
is for us to assess this on month basis.
Month on, but that's high frequency actually.
It is. And actually, I didn't realize it, but we had invested in InstaHealth. This is Ramesh Imani's
Mm.
company in 2009. And I happened to be on the board of that company. And an investor who was doing due diligence on one of our next funds, due diligence on us, so they speak to entrepreneurs. He came back and told me that Ramesh Imani told him that Samir has attended 58 board meetings. And it struck me that yes, it is a time burden, but I think it is very essential at the stage at which we invest.
Sure. And what is the effort for a founder? Because 1 month is like, it's a you're on a treadmill really, including with your investors from a founder perspective.
So the board meetings are not meant to beat up the founder or anything like that. So,
No, in
like
terms
I
of
said,
prep, in terms of prep, is a prep some prep is required, right?
absolutely. And that prep, I think the founder has to do on a daily basis. What are we
Mm.
expecting the founder to show? We're expecting the founder to show us the grip that he has on his business. How many customers did they meet if they are at that stage of meeting customers? Where is the pipeline? How has that pipeline progressed? What are the costs? Are your costs in line with what your revenues are looking or will look? What's your cash? How long will your runway last? This is what a founder needs to be on top of every day. And we are just on a monthly basis assessing together with him that how are these metrics trending and is any help required, or if you need help in hiring, then that's when we come in and say, okay, let's do this, let's do that. So these are not burdens on the entrepreneur in that sense. These are, I think, we are facilitating their journey with these monthly board meetings, and they're not very long. They are not like listed company board meetings, or at least I don't know, I don't sit on listed boards, but the monthly board meetings are typically an hour to hour and a half. The quarterly reviews are more detailed. They are about 3 hours, 4 hours, where we look back on the quarter, strategic direction changes required, or any strategic issues that need to be discussed. Uh, Fundraising plans, even if they may be 12, 15 months away, those are discussed on a quarterly basis. But on a monthly basis, that hour and a half, just to assess where things are going, I think most founders find it useful.
It forces the discipline more than anything else.
Yes. And these are
Yeah.
things that they need on a daily basis.
Yeah, correct. Now, you did talk about, some of the red flags which you see is that, you're trying very hard with the customers and the customers are not quite signing up with the product. They're all kind of B2B examples. What about B2C? How is it different? And I know you have Policy Bazaar and such companies where you've had B2C experience. How does that work? Where you seem to be spending so much money upfront to acquire customers, hoping that at some stage you're able to kind of cross the bridge.
Correct. So in B2C, you use different metrics, but at the end of the day, it is customers. So there in B2B businesses, yes, there are entrepreneurs who measure CAC and all. To me, CAC in a B2B business is not so relevant. I don't look at CAC in any of my B2B businesses.
Yeah.
But in B2C businesses, that is an essential metric. Your lifetime value, and not lifetime value with the random assumptions, or maybe we make our own assumptions. Hopefully, they tally with the entrepreneur. So CAC, lifetime value, if it's a content or advertising led B2C business, then what's the engagement, what are MAUs, monthly actives, daily actives, and all that stuff. If it is a transaction led business, then how are transactions growing? Uh, Redpass is an old story for us. I mean, we've exited it 12 years ago. But these are some of the things that we looked at, and Policy Bazaar very similar. So they transitioned from leads to transactions. That was one of the contributions that my partner Parag made in their journey. But if it's leads, then how are your leads growing month on month, quarter on quarter? If transactions, then how are transactions growing? What are repeats? These are metrics that you measure in B2C businesses. But, and again, I should also say that there are investors for whom only the engagement metrics are important, revenue is not important. For us, in B2C businesses as well, revenue does become important. Maybe not for the first few months, but if you are seeing constant investments in CAC and even engagement, but nothing following, we get nervous.
Sure. I think especially today, that's very, very relevant. Yeah. So what about execution, Samir? I mean, the board meetings, I suppose, kind of give you a sense for that as well, because that's end of the day, one of the most important things, right?
Yes. So uh, actually, you hit upon a very important point. To me, what differentiates a great outcome or a great company from a good company is just the execution level. It's not the idea, it's not anything else, it's not the tech, but it's the way you have built the tech, built your team, motivated your team, won your customers, collected the money that you're supposed to collect. So, execution is everything in this game. I would give execution a weightage of 70-80% in determining the success of a company. And I think what I was outlining in terms of the pipeline, the customers, the sales cycle, your collections, is all traits of execution. So you've actually said it very well. Probably what we look for in the board meetings is how are you executing? That's what we are trying to assess on a monthly basis.
And is
I
it
didn't
not?
bring that word out, but
Yeah, no. Is it against a certain plan? Because execution also can be all over the map, really, and I've seen it before. But is it like you meet, let's say, in June? There's stuff which you talk about when you come back in July, you find a lot of them executed. Is that how you look at execution?
so probably not such a not such a micro level. We don't necessarily go down to that you said you will, make
mm,
20 customer calls in the month. Did you make those 20? I don't think we go to that level. But
mm,
overall, let's say your receivables are at 60 days and you said that you want to come to steady state 45 days. Are you bringing 60 to 58 in the next month, or is 60 going to 65? So this is, I'm just giving one example of what we look at. Or you need to add, let's say, 50 crores of ARR this year, or new ARR, to meet your numbers. So on a monthly basis, roughly you should be adding 3 to 4 crores of ARR, at least in the first few months, and then maybe a little more. So are you adding only 50 lakhs, 1.5 crores? These are things that we look to measure. To me, these are signs of execution. It doesn't matter whether you said, and you could change. You could say that,
mm,
the market is not supporting 50 crore new ARR. Let's revise our plan, and this year we will only add 25 crores new ARR. And
mm.
therefore, then what are the costs that you need to adjust to sort of not run out of cash, or, things like that? To me, all this is execution.
Cool, cool. And stepping back, when you first met the founders, is there any way in which you could judge their execution skills?
No, you can't judge the execution skills in the first meeting. So
But you're
it takes time.
coming in at pre-Series A or Series A, which means you there have been investors earlier. I mean, is there a possibility of chatting with them, perhaps?
Of course, we do. So,
Hmm,
um, not just the investors. There are some customers. We chat with the customers. We chat with the investors. We chat with a few other employees. If there are ex-employees, we chat with the ex-employees. All this gives us a sense of how is this entrepreneur. But his ability to execute and stick to plan, like I said, my
hmm,
entrepreneurs after my investment haven't stuck to plan. So it's very hard to use that metric which old investors give, or current previous investors give. But previous investors give us a good clue that, listen, this entrepreneur is unfocused. So he or her chases every opportunity that they see. And maybe one of the things that we need to do is bring some discipline. Let's narrow the use cases. Sometimes they're able to do it themselves. Sometimes they tell us and say, let's work together once you come in and narrow down the focus areas of the entrepreneur and things like that. So those are things that happen later, but it's very hard to judge execution capability
hmm,
a priori upfront. And
hmm,
your assessment of someone's execution capability and mine is different.
hmm,
So,
hmm. Sure, sure. By the way, a message to everybody listening in over here. Samir and I are going to chat till around 7:35, 7:40. After that, we'll open up for questions. Please post your questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat box. Q&A box, please post your questions, and I'll ask Samir those questions after we finish our chat. Samir, coming to the companies which kind of fail, which die. You did talk about one where you could see, customers kind of not accepting the product. There's really no value they are seeing in the product. That was one indication. Is there any other indication? And I'll come to the founders issues later. But other than the founder issues and the customer product kind of a fit issues, are there any kind of let's say underrated reasons why startups fail?
so we should actually define what is failure. Uh,
Hmm.
is it that I don't make my 10x return? Is that failure? Is it that I get 1x of my money back? Is that failure, or a startup shutting down?
What would you see as a failure as an investor?
Okay. So for me, a startup shutting down is the worst case failure. It's certainly a failure. And me getting just 1x of my money back is also a failure as far as I'm concerned. The entrepreneur probably has made some money there, but it's a
Hmm.
failure as far as our investment is concerned. Right. So I'll try and answer these two
Sure.
scenarios where we just get our money back or a little more, or the startup shuts down. So startup shutting down, I think not able to raise next rounds of capital. We try and support our entrepreneurs if we feel that there is still a market, there is still a potential for them to pivot and do something else, that tech can be reutilized in some other market. If this market is not working, we tend to bridge. And I can give some examples later on and so on. But if at
Hmm.
the end of this day, we found that at the end of all this exercise, we find that it's still not working, then what we try and do is get to that 1x possibility where the entrepreneur also makes some money by finding
Mm.
an exit for those companies. So these exits happen earlier in the cycle. The first 3, 4, 5 years is when you figure out that this is not working out. You've tried a pivot, you've tried another pivot, you've tried raising money, you've bridged them, but it's not working out. So you try and find a home for that technology, not necessarily for the entire company, and try and realize something. But otherwise, if that also doesn't happen, the company shuts down. I can't see any other reason apart from customers, market, and founder disputes. Fraud is a different thing. I'm not even going down
Yeah,
that
yeah,
path.
I understand that. I understand that. Yeah, yeah. Now let's come to the founders. I think this is an important question which many have asked in the past as well. Is having a co-founder important?
It is
And
very important.
why?
So as
I want to hear
Parag,
your views on it. I completely agree with you, Samir.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I'll put it. And as my founder Parag has drilled it into me, it's the hit by a truck syndrome. So if you're a single founder hit by a truck, the whole venture collapses. Of course, that's a very dire way to look at it. But the other reason why a co-founder is important is that entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. It's a very lonely journey. It's a very tough journey. MD, you've also been on that journey, so you know exactly what I'm saying. And I'm sure there are many entrepreneurs on this chat who are undergoing that journey and they know what it means. And you can't talk to your employees about all the problems that you're going through or the challenges that you're going through or the you know the or the just the misery that you're going through, and there is misery in every journey. Having a co-founder gives that ability for you to chat, for you to sort out things, for you to figure out ways and paths when things get tough and so on. And that's why it's very important to have a co-founder. We also try and serve as that shoulder on which entrepreneurs can lean and cry and unburden, but we can't be a co-founder in that sense. And that's why a co-founder is very essential. And of course, complementary skills. No one founder can have all the skills. If you have
Of
a
course.
co-founder with complementary skills, I come from tech, the co-founder comes from business, it helps the venture and value creation. So a co-founder is very essential. Of course, the other downside is that there are founder disputes, but I think one should figure out how to solve them rather than not have a co-founder.
Yeah, and how early? I mean, do you think co-founders should start from day one together, or because I see LinkedIn posts where founders are looking for co-founders, which is
Yeah.
kind of putting out advertisements for co-founders. I'm not too sure how
Yeah.
good a strategy that is, but I'd love to hear as to how soon do founders look for partners?
In my head, also, I totally agree with you. Advertising for a co-founder, you're not a co-founder. I've seen in some of my companies as well, people who join and then are important in the company, they get a co-founder tag. But to me, that's not the co-founder. That's not the person you can share very intimate stuff with and so on and so forth. It's important in my head to have the co-founder at the start of your journey where you'll brainstorm your basic way forward together rather than I figure out a way forward, then get someone who sort of joins me in my journey and so on. But the second best substitute is getting somebody once I've got onto my journey. That's second best.
Who you know, and what other? I mean, what does a founder look for in the co-founder? I mean, they could be friends. That's different when it comes to business. So, what are the top one, two reasons why these partnerships fail from what you have seen, Samir?
So why the partnerships fail is your question.
Yeah, between the
So,
co-founders. Yeah.
yeah, between co-founders. So I think the biggest reason is misalignment at the time that we got together. We thought we will build this, but I thought we are building this, and my co-founder thought we are building that. And we never really discussed and thrashed it out, or we sort of knew that, the paths will diverge, but we'll figure it out. I think it's very important for teams when they come together, entrepreneurial teams when they come together to thrash out everything that, if we run out of money, then this is what we'll do. I may have thought that if we run out of money, we'll shut down. You may have thought that if we run out of money, we'll take salary cuts, we'll, layoffs. And I may have thought layoffs are the worst thing to do. I think all this needs to be discussed that if things go well, then there's no question, there's no worry.
Yeah.
But like I'm repeating, in every entrepreneurial journey, there are times when things are tough, and it's important to discuss what we will do so that we align our values on some of these
Mm.
things. Also, value alignment on other things, right? Am I going to, I mean, what is the culture I'm going to build in this company? Is it a very aggressive culture? How am I going to treat people? These are all things that cause divergence in founders. And both of us are founders. Both of us think that we have, the say it should be my way. We never discussed it before, and these divergences cause people to fall apart. Greed is another thing, but I have not seen greed so often in my journey.
Yeah. And I also think for founders, when they start up, I don't think they spend too much time talking about these things. I mean, they're pretty, starting itself is a bit of a high. I mean, when you decide to actually say, I'm launching this startup, I have this idea, you're on a high. You don't get down to discussing, what are all the things which could go wrong, and you're definitely not going to talk about value systems and so on. So I really wonder, do you help in that? Do you kind of force some of these conversations?
Yeah, so we try and get founders to sign founder agreements before our investment, where if things not obviously there, the founder agreements don't talk of, we will cut salaries and all that. Those are points that I made, that there should be an alignment in general. Why
Yeah.
things fail is because I have certain assumptions of how I will deal with things. My co-founder has certain other assumptions of how he will deal or she will deal with things, and those assumptions are not the same, and they cause friction and fissures. But a founder agreement that sort of says, suppose I quit, what happens to my shares? Do I take my shares and go away? And we've seen, a founder quit with all their vested shares, and the other two co-founders very unhappy, but they did not have a founder agreement at that time. This is something that I
Mhm.
learned through hard lessons, that having founder agreements that talk of these issues, that if we fall apart, then what happens? Do I buy back your shares? Do you have to sell back
Mhm.
your shares? At what price? uh, how much do you keep? How much do you give back? These are important discussions to have and agreements to sign.
And when do they do the founder agreement? And what would your recommendation be? As early as possible?
So at least in our journey, we've tried to do it if it's not already there at the time of our investment. Mature founders have founder agreements. Um, First-time founders typically don't have it. Many agree to do it, some don't. They just feel these are inconvenient discussions, and sometimes we just overlook that and move on.
Yeah, yeah, cool, cool. Okay. Now you have invested across sectors, Samir. Is there anything which you look for in founders, especially across sectors? Let's say founder from one area versus founders from the other. Other than domain knowledge, is there anything else we look for?
So in deep tech, at least we've been investing for the last 6, 7 years now. I think it needs a little more resilience than other sectors need. Resilience is common across all, but I think in deep tech, you need more domain knowledge. You remove the main factor by saying domain knowledge, don't talk about it. But uh, I
Yes.
think that is very critical in the deep tech sector. It's very hard for a generalist to build a space tech company or a robotics company or whatever. Yes, one can learn and spend time and become good in that, which is fine. I mean, we invested in Pixel. These were They were 6 months out from college, but they had spent a year and a half in college tinkering with these technologies. So they had built as much knowledge as maybe a guy 5 years in ISRO, for example.
Mm,
So,
mm,
but yeah, and in in B2C and B2B businesses, to a lesser extent in deep tech businesses, you need to have a very strong understanding of your customer requirements and customer needs. That I think is very critical in B2B businesses. Otherwise, you're building a product aimed at nowhere. It's
mm.
less important in B2 in deep tech businesses, but it is important. I'm not negating that, but I'm just saying in relative weights, domain knowledge I would weigh more in deep tech, customer knowledge I would weigh more in B2B businesses, and then B2C businesses and so on.
And does it mean your attitude has changed? You as an investor attitude has changed because you're in deep tech, maybe more patience as well?
So life taught me patience early on, MD, but I think we grit ourselves for a longer engagement with that company, a longer time to exit, and so on. So we try and make deep tech investments early on in every fund.
No, is there a way in which you set expectations with your LPs also in terms of, investing in deep tech? So more patience required from them as well, obviously.
So we tell LPs that this is what we are going to do. We do tell them that deep tech investments take more time to fructify and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the fund has a life, and the LP doesn't care if a particular investment has taken longer or taken lesser time. Overall, are you returning money at frequent intervals? So we for ourselves haven't done a only deep tech fund. Um,
Hmm.
we still find that that's quite a risky proposition. You need some investments which you can monetize in a faster time frame, some investments which deep tech hopefully will give very disproportionate returns from even a policy bazaar type of investment if things work out well. So you have to build a balanced and diversified portfolio is our belief.
Yeah, we have reached it's 7:35 right now. Maybe one or two more questions, and because I see already four people have posted questions, so just a couple of things. You did talk about pivots sometime during our conversation, Samir. How do you look at it? I mean, is this do you see pivots as something strategic, or what normally triggers founders to make these pivots?
So I think pivots are very important. And one of the things we look at before we make an investment is how wedded is the entrepreneur to their idea. See, it's natural for an entrepreneur to love their idea.
Of
There's no
course,
negative about that quality. But
yeah,
I love my idea and I'm wedded to it and I will sink and die with that idea is a quality that we do not like. We try and assess it through various means that how open is this entrepreneur to change, to coaching, to listening to customer feedback, to listening to market feedback and all. But in my head, it is very hard for a business. Uh, so if I take Red
mm,
Bus started with trying to automate bus operators. They ended up selling tickets to customers. Take Policy Bazaar. They started off saying we'll build a large business selling leads to insurance companies. They pivoted and became a transaction company enabling people to buy insurance. Take InstaHealth. They started by saying we will build software for small and medium hospitals. They diversified to labs and then went into kidney, things. And so
yeah.
everyone has to change because it's very hard at the beginning to fully understand what customer and market needs are. And therefore, pivots are important in a company's journey. Take Blue Armor, the smart helmet company. They started with coolers and said, the world has summer at one time, winter. So every place, if there's winter here, there's summer somewhere else. So I can sell my helmet coolers somewhere in the world at all time. But they were not able to get product market fit. Thankfully, they
Mm.
were not wedded to that idea. They pivoted, built smart intercoms, built smart helmets, and today it's a company that's a rocket ship. So pivots are critical in most entrepreneurs' journeys.
Yeah, just one last question, Samir. In terms of quantum of money startups are raising these days, what's what's a what's a good size? Do you think? I know there was a time when a lot of money was getting into startups. At least personally, I thought for no reason. So, what is the right quantum founders should ask for?
Yeah. So, I have a controversial view on this. Not everyone likes what I say, even in my community, the VC industry. But if a founder can build a business without raising money, that is the best thing. Raising VC money is not it's it's a burden that the founder is taking on themselves, raising money from a venture capitalist. Of course, but if the business needs money, then you go and raise money from a VC. In that case, raise as little as possible, but give yourself sufficient time to reach a milestone. So if I raise very little money and at 6 months later I'm again trying to raise money, but I don't have anything significant to show in this time frame, I won't get that money in 6 months. So I would say as little as possible, which will get you to a meaningful milestone, which could be 12 to 18 to 24 months away. That's the amount of money you should raise. Now, of course, this is controversial. An entrepreneur says that, so and so is willing to give me 10 million. I actually need only 5 million to get to that 18 months. I'll have product, I'll have 10 customers, I'll have this, I'll have that. Why should I not take the 5 million? And they're willing to give me a valuation. So I have no answer for that.
Well, I think the answer is there in some of the examples in the recent past, right?
That's happened. Yeah,
That is that.
exactly.
Okay, Samir, let's get to some of the audience questions. So let me just go through this list. I think this list is visible to you as well. So I'll
Yes.
start with the first question here. Amit Banerjee has a query. the 10x blended return mentioned is expected over what period?
What
5 years or
period?
7 years? Good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Amit, our fund is a 10 plus 2 year fund. That means we have to end the fund in 10 years. We may get an extension of 11 and 12 if our LPs are okay with it. But that's the time frame in which we need to exit. So early investments, we do have a longer runway. But yes, we typically look for a 5 to 8 year exit horizon.
I do it. Yes. Okay. Cool. Okay. Hope that
So,
answered.
Roshan,
Yeah. Roshan, Samir, as a smaller VC in India now, gosh, I lost the question.
there
Yeah.
are so
Sorry.
many
Yeah.
funds.
Yeah. In India now, there are so many funds who would put in a lot of capital after you and stand superior with liquidation preferences, etc. How does this impact you? Because that would be the same challenge for individuals as angel investors.
Yeah, I think a
Very good
very
question
good
again.
question. Roshan, the answer is by and large, if the valuations are reasonable and the fundraise amount is reasonable, investors give pari passu liquidation preference. So, not a superior liquidation preference. If I look at my companies where there have been angel investors and they've all, most of them have raised 2, 3, 4, 5 crores of angel capital before we have come in with our rounds, we give the angel investors pari passu liquidation preference. But if we have seen scenarios with some of our companies in later rounds where either the valuation is ask is very excessive and there's competition, so there are 2, 3 VCs bidding for that, and therefore valuation runs up beyond what even we feel is reasonable, then you get into this superior liquidation preference and things like that. Also, superior liquidation preference kicks in when large quantums of money are raised by companies and they are slightly challenged. So if I just look at Policy Bazaar, they ended up raising before they went public about 600-700 million dollars. All the liquidation was pari passu from our even prior to us investors, us and subsequent rounds. But if you look at Baiju's and all that stuff, companies that are bleeding cash and raise money, liquidation preferences get onerous. So
Yeah,
that
so
is going to
Samir,
be the answer.
just for the benefit of Samir, just for the benefit of everybody else in this, just talk a little bit about what liquidation preference really means.
Means okay. Yeah, good point, MD. So okay. So liquidation preference, the definition of liquidation preference is when a liquidation or an exit event happens. Don't think of liquidation as a company being shut down. Exit in a company is also defined as a liquidation event. Then a liquidation preference says that investors who enjoy that liquidation preference will first get their money back over every other shareholder in that company. So just if MD, I have your indulgence, I'll give it with an explain it with an example. It's
Sure,
very
please
clear.
do, please do, please
So
do.
let's say I own 20% in a company and I've invested $5 million in that company. So I own 20%, I've invested 5 million. If it has $100 million exit, then my 20% ownership is worth 20 million and the LP does not kick in at all. So there's no concept of the LP, it dissolves. But let's say the company has a $10 million exit, then my 20% ownership in that company will yield only 2 million to me. That's where the LP kicks in. And the LP will first say that the 5 million I put into the company will first come back to me. And then the remaining 5 million will get divided among all the shareholders or among a certain set of shareholders. I may get excluded from it, I may be included from it, and things like that. Those are the nuances of LP. But it basically says that the investor will first get their money back over anything else in the case of a exit or liquidation scenario.
Great, thank you. I hope that helped many of the others on the listening to us today. Okay, S. Kumar, what are the challenges taking Indian startup to global marketplace? Reason for question is why we don't see many examples of Indian startups going global with an indigenous product.
So there are many challenges of this. We do have a few successful examples of companies that have gone global, Freshworks, Zoho, and there are a few others. But it's very challenging because if you sit in India, you sit far from your customer. It's hard to understand customer needs. I think Indian entrepreneurs are getting there, but the US markets, and I'm talking of US because it is the biggest market globally. is a very different market from the Indian market. The way you sell, the way you approach customers, the way customers talk to you, what they expect, the communication styles that are required, the presentation decks that are required, the quality of proposals that is needed. It's very different from selling in India. And I think we still have a ladder to climb to get there. It's getting better. Indian startups are beginning to close customers in the US more frequently. You'll see more examples, not just Freshworks, Zoho, and the few others. But the challenges are because selling in overseas markets, selling in India, customer needs in overseas markets, customer needs in India, customer behavior in overseas markets, customer behavior in India is very, very different.
Yeah. Do you consider that potential at all when you evaluate a company?
So I think, MD, I have evolved over time. Um, Earlier, it used to be when I was early in my investing journey that if you were building for India and it had no market outside, a very hard thing to invest. But over time, we started changing. We saw companies like Socrati, InstaHealth build for India and succeed in India. B2C business is different. Policy Bazaar is all India, Redbus is all India. That's a very, I'm talking only of B2B companies going global. So Move in Sync, it has scaled beautifully and it's largely India, 95% India. So my thinking has also evolved. Today, it is possible to build large companies, B2B businesses, just serving the Indian market.
Okay, that's a big change. Would you say that's a change across the VC community, or it's more
It
specific
is.
to you?
Everyone is evolving to accept this now, MD. So when you talk of India and when you talk of overseas, it used to be the US market. If you can't crack the US, then you are not going to
Mm.
make it. Today we are saying that you, of course, you have to crack India, otherwise you don't make it. But maybe you crack adjacent markets that have similarities, Middle
Mm.
East, Southeast Asia, and so on. So those, I think, you take Move in Sync or you take Knowlescape or
Mm.
any of our other companies also, they have customers there, but they've sort of given, not even tried the US market seriously.
Mm. 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 Cool, cool. Interesting. This is an interesting question. When you invest, do you also decide based on the pivoting potential of the idea?
No, so I think we don't decide based on the pivoting potential, but we decide based on the willingness of the entrepreneur to pivot in case things don't work out. So, like I said in the beginning, we look for 10x. We end up most often conning ourselves because we don't make 10x. Using conning in a very light way. And obviously, we seriously believe we'll make 10x when we invest. But therefore, when we invest, everything looks bright, rosy, and very optimistic. Otherwise, we would not invest. So out of 120 businesses that we look at, we end up investing in maybe half. So out of 300, we invest in one or two. Um, if things didn't look good, we won't invest. We are not FOMO driven investors. We are happy to sit out if we don't find investment opportunities that work. So to answer your question again, we believe the idea will work. That's why we've invested. However, there were mistakes in the assumptions that the entrepreneur made or we made or whatever, and therefore we need to pivot.
Sure, sure. This is from Professor Mishra. You mentioned about co-founders. How do you ensure that they are on the same page on day one? I have seen some startups with differences occurring later, leading to decline.
Yeah. So, Professor Mishra, it's very hard to ensure that they are on the same page on day one. But like I said earlier, having some hard discussions early on. For instance, if you say that we should draw up a founders agreement, and if one of the founders leaves the company, even after 4 years, they should sell half their vested shares back at the cost at which they got it. And I start protesting as your co-founder. No, 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 I want to keep all my shares and all. It's telling you something that I don't have that sense of fairness. I don't have that sense of equity. How can I expect a free ride based on something that I've done and keep everything for myself and so on and so forth. So founders agreements tend to flesh out some of these things, but this is the biggest risk that we carry in an investment.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, the founder agreement is a great idea. It's an excellent thing to implement. And you force it, right? You make sure it happens.
So, like I said, we try and make sure it happens. There are a few cases where we've overlooked it and still gone ahead.
Okay, fine. Okay. How do you interact with co-investors? Actually, I'll extend it a little bit. Let's say there are other investors coming coming along with you during a round. How much do you interact with them to discuss valuation? Valuation is an obvious thing, but to discuss especially business.
So, I think, and here I'm talking very particularly about our own firm. We have a we have always, and this has been driven by Kanwal Rekhi, one of my co-founders. Uh, he believed that having a co-investor along with you just provides another set of eyes, ears, and hands for the entrepreneur. And therefore, it's good to bring co-investors when you invest. And that's been our philosophy, and we've tried to do that all the time. If we've got a co-investor identified early on, for instance, in ViewNet, Mela Ventures and us were looking at the company together. We knew them, we spoke, we jointly gave a term sheet, we discussed the valuation among ourselves and jointly gave a term sheet, jointly negotiated it. We had discussed the range that we are comfortable going up to and not going up to, etc. So that is one case where we worked together with the co-investor and said, let's do it together. Take Seinler, which was a more recent investment we've done, where it was a large round, way beyond our ability. It was a 10 million round. Our check was 2 million. But we said we'll lead it, and the entrepreneur was okay, you lead it with a 2 million check. So we set the terms, we discussed the valuation with him, we signed a term sheet which had a valuation, and then we went out and spoke to co-investors. The entrepreneur spoke, we introduced him. He sent people he was talking to us. We shared our diligence material with them. We got a shared understanding of how we see this business. We are not seeing it as a robotic arm business. We're seeing it as a computer vision business. If there's fundamental alignment, misalignment there, it will lead to chaos. And we are guided there by what the entrepreneur believes. We can't, or never, we can, but we never tell the entrepreneur, no, 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 you must build a robotic arm. If he wants to build a computer vision business and I think he should build a robotic arm, I should not be investing. So that's the philosophy with which we go. Entrepreneur is living his dream. Either I believe in his dream or her dream, or I don't. But I cannot force the entrepreneur to live my dream.
Sure, perfect. Okay. A question from Ankur. Is being a single founder generally seen as a concern for venture capital firm? I think you answered that question. If a solo founder has secured an enterprise client and has more in the pipeline with just an MVP, does that typically help overcome those concerns?
So those concerns remain. They are not so much to do with securing customers and all. They are to do with the journey, the loneliness of the journey, the fact that a single founder is a single point of failure, and so on.
Cool. Is there a specific sector, or better still, a problem area where you personally feel there is a huge potential right for disruption? Man.
If I did, I would be the entrepreneur. So I don't have any answer to that question, anonymous attendee. It's the entrepreneurs who figure out where the problems are, where they have unique insights to provide a solution that can create value. And for us, it is we align or believe him or her, we invest. If not, we don't. We are not the type, and again, there's nothing right or wrong in what we are doing. We are
Yeah.
not the type of investors who say that I want to invest in an agentic AI company that does payroll processing. And therefore, now, Mr. Entrepreneur, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Are you doing it? And I'll invest. We are not that type. We don't build a thesis that way. We are bottoms up. We look for entrepreneurs. If we align with what they're saying and like what they're saying, we will back.
But you do have some ideas in terms of where you won't invest, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah. So that I think we are clear. We are tech investors, tech with a broad definition. So in tech, we look at all areas. We've done space, we've done autonomous mobile robots, we've done robotic arms, we've done smart helmets, we've done electric vehicles, we've done digital toys, and we'll do more and more in those areas. We've done software in education, software in healthcare, software in transportation, fintech. We won't do hotels, we won't do restaurants, we won't do lipstick beauty products, we won't do things that retail. Those are things we don't understand. Not that we understand the other things we do, but I think we understand the other things we do slightly better than others.
Yeah, how much research goes into this? Like deep tech, you've been doing now for 4 years. Did you 4 years ago? Did you kind of make a conscious decision? put some analysts on it, did research, or you just based on what's coming to you, entrepreneurs talking to you? How does that process work?
Yeah. So I think we didn't do any research or analysts or anything. It's entrepreneurs who came. I think the first thing we did was first one we did in this space was Blue Armor, which is smart helmets. So we take meetings with most people in the tech space. That's one thing I think we've done well as a firm. So we hadn't done anything hardware specific before, but we liked the concept that this entrepreneur was putting together. His basic vision was I will provide two-wheeler riders the same safety and comfort that four-wheeler riders enjoy. Now, that is the vision with which he said, I'm building the company. Started with cooling. Cars have AC, two-wheeler riders don't, so let me give them cooling. Cars have Bluetooth, connectivity, music, interaction with the vehicle, telematics, vehicle telematics, and so on. So I'll give that to riders. I'll give dash cams, helmet dash cams, and so on and so forth. So that was the vision. We liked that vision. His domain knowledge we really liked. He was a strong techie, came from a tech background. So we said, let's do it. As I said, his first product did not have product market fit. But because he was a smart entrepreneur, he pivoted and I think is doing very well today.
Yeah, this is another interesting question. I know we have 4 minutes. Tell us a bit about IPOs. How do investors like yourself advise on IPOs?
On IPOs.
Yeah, I mean, Policy Bazaar is a good example, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw the question now. So unfortunately, not every company can go public. That is the reality. When uh, when LPs talk to us and say, "How will you exit your companies?" The answer we give them is, of course, we'd love every 10 out of 10 to go IPO. We know that 10 out of 10 won't even make it, but and most will have an M&A or a strategic sale. Very few will go IPO. But I think we've learned in this journey. We've had two IPOs so far. Policy Bazaar is, of course, the more visible one. We've had another small IPO on the small exchange. We have a third company that is working towards an IPO, which is Move in Sync.
Mm.
We we are not the IPO experts. In both Policy Bazaar and now in Move in Sync, the later round investors who've come in Move in Sync, they've just come in a year and a half ago. They bring the IPO expertise, but we are well connected with merchant bankers and a lot of these bankers that take companies public. So Move in Sync, even 2 years back, when we had said that, okay, we are now going to go on the IPO track, we had connected them with a lot of these service providers who merchant bankers and investment bankers that take companies public. So that's how we help. Ourselves, I don't think we are IPO experts.
Okay, great. I think we're getting very close to the close of our conversation. There are a few questions which I'm not going to take at this point, but one question I had for you, Samir, which is on the founder's knowledge in finance. How basic? What is the minimum bar you expect in a founder to understand financials?
So at the time of our investment, it is okay if they don't understand finance, but they must have that basic IQ to understand finance. At the end of the day, cash is extremely important for the entrepreneur. And when I say cash, it's not just how much cash do I have. I tell my team as well that numbers tell a story. Numbers by themselves are not important, but you must have the capacity to read the story that the numbers are telling. And we look for that in the entrepreneur. They may be raw at the time of our investment, but we certainly look for that capacity to build that skill. And it's a very important skill to build.
Yeah,
Understanding the story that your numbers are telling you.
just give us an example, Samir, of the story you're talking about.
So, a very simple thing which most people will relate to. My revenues are growing, my receivables are growing at the same pace. It tells me that customers are buying my product but are not willing to pay. So, that's what will put my antenna up. Why are customers not paying? And I'm removing fraud from the equation. Fraud is a
Yeah,
simple answer, right? That I just fake the invoices and so on. But no, I've genuinely got an order, I've supplied. So then it's telling me that either my tech is not meeting the customer needs and I need to do something on my product, or that I've overpromised in the sales process and the customer is unhappy when he's received the product. So those are the stories that I think numbers tell you. And this is just one example of my sales and receivables. Uh, not my receivables going disproportionate. I sell every month 10 crores. And at the end of next month, my receivables are 20 crores, then 30 crores. I'm exaggerating to
Yeah,
make the
yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah. I
So
understand. I
that's the
understand the rate
story.
of growth of both. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's the story that this tells me. Same way, cash, right? What happened to my cash? I was sitting on 5 crores last month. My monthly burn is 1 crore, but my cash has become 3 crores. So now I look for capex, I look for an abnormal increase in receivables. There is something that it's going to tell you, and
sure,
that's what we
sure.
should look for. That's what I mean by the story.
Yeah, yeah. It's common sense financial knowledge actually. No,
Yes.
that's great. Samir, we have completely run out of time. It's 8 p.m. Message to I know somebody had asked if recording will be available. Yes, recording will be available around evening tomorrow. And that will be up on YouTube. It will be up on the AIPod group. It'll be up on LinkedIn as well. So, Samir, this has been a fantastic conversation. We should do more of these, really, especially drill down a little more into very specific examples. We'll do that some other time, Samir, but thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Thank you for having
And,
me.
and thank you, everybody, for your patient listening. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.